to you, Kashif, for the presentation and everything. Thank you.
Thanks, Francesco, for the introduction. Good afternoon and good morning, colleagues. Let me share my screen. All right. I hope you can see the presentation mode. Francesco.
Yes, we can, Kashif.
Okay, super. Thank you. Right. So as Francesco explained, we are going to look at the targeting approach based on the new streamline methodology. Quickly, the objective of the session to explain the method on how you turn your people in need into targets. It's a 4-step process. I'll walk you through with a dummy data set. I have this presentation, and then after that, I also have an Excel example where I will show you each of the 4 steps as well. And during the 4-step workflow, I will also show how we factor in quick checks and capping in case if any of the area of responsibility figure is going above and beyond the protection cluster number. So you will see all the formulas, specific formulas in the Excel example as well. Just a refresher from what you had in the August webinar. So that's a print screen of what the new streamline approach looks like. At the start, you have 3 pillars of need, the way they were introduced last year. So ability to move and access to public spaces, ability to participate in safe practices, and access to right and services. So based on these 3 pillars of need, you have a list of core indicators. You're going to select the indicators against these 3 pillars, which will help you ascertain the severity of need and subsequently the people in need calculation. And as it was explained in the August webinar, that it's a top-down approach now. So you will have an overall protection pin figure followed by the specific AOR figures. And same method applies for the targeting. So you will have an overall cluster target, and then based on that target, you will ascertain the area of responsibility for AOR targets as well. But more specifically, when it comes to requirements, there we are keeping everything together. So you will have the overall requirements for the cluster, but then again, all the 4 AORs funding requirements will also feature in the within the narrative of the HNRP. So that's a quick overview of what was introduced back in August. Right, so let's jump into the target setting, how it is going to look like. It hasn't changed much. As I said, it's only the approach has reversed. Few key things to consider and keep in mind that the global target or the protection target number, which we are calling as global target, that will be used for monitoring and reporting. And this is not.
If you have any burning question to Maima, will come in. Maybe next time.
Sorry, colleagues, if you can mute.
Okay. Thanks. So the global target is not an aggregation of AOR as it used to be earlier on in the previous years. So, and then we have to make sure that the AOR target figures, they must remain lower. And when it comes to the implementation of the response and its tracking through 4.5Ws, we need to make sure that the tracking is done against the global target figure or the overall protection cluster figure. because this is what is going to be reported back to OCHA through the HNRP. And then at the country level, each AOR can coordinate with the cluster, protection cluster, to agree the specific AOR targets. And in this regard, I have an example which I will show you from South Sudan on how they are actually approaching this particular point when it comes to the coordination with the protection cluster in terms of AOR level response monitoring. Right. So as I said earlier, it's a 4-step process. The first step is you already saw very quickly, I think in the August webinar, where we are going to look at few filters, and based on that, we are going to provide a coverage band of each location using those 5 filters. So those they are stipulated in the next slide for us. In the step 2, we are going to score locations based on those 5 filters to get a final score, which will actually decide how much percentage we are going to take out of the people need calculation for our overall target. In the step 3, we actually do that computing of the target. And then in step 4, I will also show you how you can distribute the targets across activities and common indicators which were almost at the final stage of based on the common agreed response framework. So that's a very quick rundown of those 4 steps. But in the subsequent slides, we're going to look at steps a bit in detail now. So for the first one is on the coverage band. As I said, there are 5 areas or filters which we can look at. So we are looking at needs, we are looking at capacity, we are looking at how much we were able to deliver, so our previous response capacity, and how much absorbability our capacity is. So those are the 4 key areas: severity, operational capacity, access, historical reach, and absorptive capacity. Each filter or area can be scored between 1 and 5, and then at the end of this whole process, you get a composite score out of those, using these 5 filters. I'll show you in the next step. So here we have provided an example in case if a location is getting a score between 0 and 14. So 40% coverage, that means 40% targeting. And in case if the score is between 15 and 19, so that goes up to 55%, or if the score is quite high, 20, 25, 75%. So these percentages are not set rule, but here they have already, they've only been provided as an example. But as I said, the scoring here of the 3 bands as well as the coverage will definitely depend on the context. Right, so the filters, as I said, severity level, looking at the severity of the needs, we are proposing that the areas which are under severity 3, 4, and 5 should be prioritized when you look at this filter. On the operational capacity, you look at the number and presence of protection actors who are present within the scope of the analysis or scope of the HRRP. The third is the access, whether you have access to those areas. Absorptive capacity, number of people partners can actually meaningfully deliver. And lastly, your previous response or from the last year HNRP, how was it? So looking at these 5 filters or areas, we can, for every location, you can do a scoring of 1 to 5. And then at the end, the score will be calculated for a given location. So if you look at this slide here, We have district A, and then these 5 filters they are presented here: severity, capacity, access, absorbability, and then the historical reach. For district A, we are getting a score of 17. So if you remember from the previous slide, we have the different bands, and then we decided that in case if our score is between 0 and 14, we take 40%, or if it is above but below between 20, then we take 55, or otherwise 75. So that's how these percentages are decided, and then based on the percentages, we will eventually get to the stage where we actually calculate our target figures. So here in this slide, you can see you have the admin location, you have the population groups, and then the pin which was calculated at the backstage, back at the previous step, and then the coverage. So it is simply a multiplication of the coverage with your people in need to get the cluster target. So this is the overall target by population group and by location, the selected administrative location for as far as the overall target is concerned. And likewise, you can see that for the other rows represent each of the district and also the population group. So that's how the, as I said, the overall target figure is calculated. In step number 3 comes the point where you have to now calculate the AOR targets. If you remember from the very first slide, we said that we first calculate the overall protection cluster figure, and then the AOR targeting would come into play. For AOR targeting, we are also proposing the same process. So looking at the 5 filters, and eventually deciding on how much coverage you would be looking at for a given location, for a given AOR. And the same process will be employed the way we have employed for the overall cluster target figure. The only one thing, the Excel template I'm going to show you in few minutes is the formula which basically checks the capping. So in case if a target figure for an AOR is going above the overall target figure, so it will cap it equal to the same figure what we have in the for the protection cluster. So that's the only addition we have as compared to what we have for the overall cluster target when we determine the overall cluster number.
Kashif?
Yep.
Sorry, there is a question from Yasmin that she's asking to explain better the absorptive capacity. What does it mean?
Yeah, sure. So those 5 filters, first severity, which basically is your needs, and then you have the operational capacity and access, which basically looks at your how much you're able to deliver, and the third one is the absorptive. So it is based on local capacity to provide or to provide services to the affected community. So for example, if you have a partner, whether they have the selected services or infrastructure in place to actually go and deliver the services in the selected area. So by absorpability, we actually mean that whether the selected partner, they have the infrastructure in place to provide that services to the affected community. And lastly, the historical reach is actually you're looking at the previous year reach numbers. I hope it was clear.
Yasmin, I don't know. Yeah, fantastic. I see a thumbs up.
Okay. Right. So step 3, as I was explaining, the only difference between step 2 and step 1 is that step 2 level we are calculating the overall target figure, and step 3 is the AOR level target figures. But here we are only providing an additional step of checking, whether the AOR target, making sure the AOR target doesn't go beyond the cluster figure. Right, and this is again based on the Excel file, a very simple graph showing how many, the dark color is basically the overall target for a given district, and then the light shade is the AOR targets for a given district, ensuring the capping is done. And lastly, for the fourth step, so here once you have the overall target figure, and then you've already also done the AOR level target figures, the next step is to look at the activities and then distribute the target numbers across the selected target activities. In this example also, you can see I'm providing an example for district A, where you have an example of selected indicators for child protection. One thing I want to mention here, this is called the rule value, or how many percentage you want to distribute to that given indicator when it comes to the the distribution within the target activity. So based on this number or percentage, that activity would actually get the number of people targeted. So likewise, as I said, I will also show it probably in the Excel example. That might be more clear as well. But here at this stage, what the most important thing is that once you have the numbers, so you will list target activities and the indicators, and then you will distribute your the overall target, your specific target number across those activities, the way we have been doing in the past as well. So that's where the fourth step finishes. And then if you allow me, before we open the question and answer session, I will quickly open up the Excel and go through this whole process again, and then we can open the floor for question and answer and discussions. Right, so as I said earlier, so I've prepared an example. We'll definitely share along with the slides with all the participants of the webinar, but a quick overview. So here I have a README, which basically gives you a quick overview of the most important worksheets here. So this is the common framework. I'll come to it and a bit later. So and this is the one I actually initially highlighted with Francesco and our colleagues at the global AOR level. We are working on to finalize. It's almost there. So the first step is the lookup. So here basically we have a separate sheet. These are the scores based on which you apply those 5 filters and get the respective coverage. So a score between 0 and 14 is 40% in our example, and between 15 and 19 it's 55, and then beyond that it is 75%. So in the next sheet, the scoring is done for those 5 filters. For district A, B, and C, those are the 5 filters, and then a composite score is calculated and the coverage is done, ascertained based on the composite score. Step number 2, where we calculate the overall target figures. So here again, I have my 3 districts, A, B, and C, and I've listed the 3 different population groups of IDB's returnees are non-displaced. And for each group, we have a pin figure which comes from the previous step. And then based on the, for district A, we had a coverage of 55%. So that is why we are applying 55. So it can be different for different population groups as well. But obviously, if you want to keep it different for each of the selected group, in that case, you will have to do the composite score for each group by location separately. But that's a big task, I would say. So 55%, and then at the end you get a cluster figure for IDPs in District A, which is simply a multiplication of 55 by our baseline number, which in this case is PIN. So that's how the PIN is calculated by group and by administrative location. Likewise, for the AORs as well, so we have the same process. You have here I actually have brought everything together. I do not have I wanted to keep it simple. That's why I haven't included the population groups in this example here for IDPs. Sorry, for AORs, but definitely they need to be catered for. So here you have the 5 filters and the composite score, which gives you the coverage, and then it helps you calculate the total number of target based on our baseline for each of the AOR in the respective districts. So that's exactly what we did in the previous step. The only difference is that this is the scale or capping which we are checking here. So for example, in District A for child protection, as an example, we have an overall target of 8,000, but the overall cluster target is 78,808. So for example, if I were to calculate it, let's say 98,000, so immediately the tool will give you an alert, and then the scale factor comes into play, ensuring that the capping is done to make sure that the pin, the original AR pin, doesn't go beyond what we have for the overall cluster. So that's how this whole capping is done using the formula, which is listed in column N. Okay, so once the AOR figures are done, we can have a summary by location, by AORs, and by population groups as well. So up until now, we have completed step 1, 2, and 3. The next step comes when you have to distribute, and when you have once you have to select the target activities and the relevant indicators and how you actually distribute. So the process will be the same as I explained in my presentation. What we have been doing over the years exactly is the same. So in this example, I have selected a few common indicators from the common response framework, which I mentioned that we are developing, and it's almost in the final stages. So where you have 6 response pillars of the framework. Then against those pillars, you have programming modalities, you have activities, common activities, and common indicators. I'll let Francesco also speak about it in a bit to make it more clear. But out of for this example, for our tool, as I said, I selected 4 or 5 key indicators, common indicators against our targets. Here, simply what I'm doing is I am so the first 4 rows are for the child protection. Those 4 indicators were selected. They are all, the unit of measurement for these indicators are individuals, and then here I'm just simply distributing how much weightage or the coverage each of the indicator will get out of those 4. So they all add up to, they should all add up to 100%. In the next stage, so here the the target figures are now being distributed across the activities here. So in this worksheet. So for example, if I take the first row here, I have my admin location, and then I have my indicator name, its unit of measurement, and here simply the rule value, which you saw in the previous slide. So that means 30% of the targeting is basically being applied here out of the total. So 30% of 8,000 is about 2,400. And likewise here also we have we are ensuring that to input capping in case if any of the number is going beyond this particular figure. for a given activity and indicator, just to make sure that everything stays either equal or below. So at the end, we will get the target figures, and this whole process, as I said, you are distributing a given AOR target figure for a given district, for a given population group across selected 4, 5, 6, whatever it could be across those activities and their indicators. Again, the capping, as I said, is applied here to make sure that the number is not going beyond the actual baseline figure. I'll stop here. I do have a couple of other worksheets which basically explain the costing. We are just looking at here the costing on the unit costing methodology. Again, the process is the same, but I'll stop here and I'll open the floor for questions and discussions primarily. Thank you, and back to you, Francesco.
Yes, Kashif, there is already few reactions on the chat, so maybe you would like to open because some of this, it would be good. From what I see, let me just answer to the more general. There is a question on what if OCHA or EHC do the capping. I think we can tackle that at the end of the session because it's much more, it's not into the process, but much more political and what is our positioning. There is one that is quite straightforward. For the rule value column, should we include the value manually or is there a formula in the tool? So that I think you can answer straight away.
No, it's not, but it can either be. So point noted, I'll put a formula there in case if you want to bring the values or to, through a formula. Okay.
Then Jacques from Burkina Faso would like to know how the historical reach can influence the targeting, but I think that he was also suggesting to maybe have a follow-up, a bilateral discussion on them, because I guess unless you already have a few inputs on how it can influence, or we can open to the colleagues also to exchange. And then there is a question, how do we define the cluster target? I think I can answer to that. You introduced it at the beginning, but the cluster target will be based on the pin and the overall pin on severity of the protection cluster, as Kashif has been explained. And then some of those, I think it will be good you read through those, specifically from Nabil, if you don't mind, Kashif.
Yeah.
And then Dorian, as usual, you put 65 comments, so probably we will open the mic and leave it to you. But maybe if you can read out the Nabil comment, since many people just do give thumbs up.
Yeah, I can come in as well if you want.
Yeah, please, Nabil. That will be great.
Yeah, this is Nabil, Sharp Protection IM for Sudan. Two questions. First, on the cap for EORs. How do we consider the different age groups here? Child protection being targeting children below 18 plus their caregivers, because the fixed percentage, or how we do the percentage across the different age and gender desegregation. The second, on the role value that you are proposing for the desegregation between indicators. So in this case, if we have different needs across different geographical levels, localities or districts, as you're mentioning, how do we prioritize different activities differently across the geographical level? Having one role value percentage does not allow us to have, for example, prioritized certain activities in certain locations. If we have the same percentage across all locations, I might have a larger target for activities for separated children, for example, in areas where we have more of this issue, rather than having the same percentage across where I have different localities where this issue does not exist. So what we did last year actually is to calculate the target at activity level first, and then come up with the target overall for the CPOR. This is what we have done, and I think it was more logical, having not only looking at the overall severity for the CPOR or people in need, but we looked also at the different ranking for different issues based on our data sources, which give us more, more accurate, let's say, more accurate figures than having one disaggregation across. And the third point is on severity. If we are using the overall severity, how can we deal with issues where we have different severity for different EORs? I mean, the EOR severity is different from the protection cluster severity. Over.
Right. So yes, in the I forgot to mention disaggregation is definitely going to be there by different, not only by population groups, but also by age. So you will have your pen broken down by population groups and by different age groups as well. So that's there, and same is true for targeting as well. So apologies, yeah, I did not include it in my example, but definitely this has to be catered for. Probably once I share the Excel file together with the slides, I will already include it so that it makes it clear. On the, yeah, so the streamline methodology is basically what we have. So you will have to calculate the overall target figure first and then the AOR figure. So it's not like, so it's the other way around as explained. So what we have used the approach in the previous years. So just to re-emphasize again, the overall target figure has to come first and then the AOR target figures. On the rule of law, that's not a thumb rule per se. As I explained initially, so those 5 filters and the matrix which you are getting at the start, again, there the percentages, the severity score, they can differ from context to context, and same goes for the rule of law. Here I was only presenting one example where you saw 0.3, 30%, 20%, but obviously based on the importance of activity, definitely you can vary the rule of law when it comes to a particular activity or indicator. I covered 3 of your question. I might have missed one. Probably, apologies if you can come back again.
Severity, different severity for AORs. If the AOR severity is different from the protection cluster severity.
Yes. So again, the severity of needs is being done initially at the first stage when you're calculating your pen. Here, there also with the new streamline methodology, again, you are calculating the highest, the overall severity plus the overall pin figures first, and then you actually drill down again into the AORs when it comes to severity and pin. But I'll say it again, but this is how the new streamline method is, where you have to actually do the severity, pin, and target initially for the cluster firstly, and then you go beyond level 1 for the AORs.
Thank you, Kashif. Nabil, your follow-up? Or there are other comments otherwise? Is it okay?
No comment. Thanks. Thanks for answering.
Thank you, Nabil. So maybe Dorian, I see Dorian, Charles, Yasmin, you already been answered. So maybe you want to take the mic, Dorian?
Yes, thank you. So yes, some of these issues have already been spoken about, the capping, and you will talk about it later. I really need to put also forward the lack of IM capacities at AOR level as an issue that complicates things, especially in our case. We only are being given 3 days to translate pins into targets. And due to what my previous colleagues have mentioned, you also have to be strategic about it. That is where experts need to give us their opinions on where certain activities need to be more or less represented. I'm still at odds to understand how we are going to do the cluster targets first and then disaggregate them per AOR. that still, I understand the concept. I just don't understand how that can be done methodologically due to composition of the cluster itself. But okay, I don't think that that will be a major problem which way you do it, as long as the targets do the pins don't go overboard. When it comes to this historical data and doing this deep dive analysis, I personally think that whatever we can extract from 5Ws, we should use. And I think that maybe in a less methodological way, we were always using it in one way or another and looking into who are the partners, where they are. I know for a fact that we do not have the capacity here, neither the cluster coordination or coordination IM, to do that in fully in this way. So we'll have to find some sort of shortcuts. Also, what is important to say is whatever your partners are here, due to these massive budget cuts, I would not guarantee that 50% of these partners are going to be here next year. So I honestly think that this is also a little bit, a shot in the dark. Yeah, that's mainly what I wanted to say. But I mean, to me, the actual process of analyzing the locations and all of that things is actually quite good, and we should attempt it. I just don't know who I will be discussing that with here. Thank you.
Actually, if you want to answer, or I take Charles and you just answer to a couple of.
No, go ahead. I'll come in. Sure.
Charles, please. We can't hear you, or at least I can't hear you.
Can you get me now?
Now, yes. Please
All
come
right,
in.
sorry. This is Charles, Sudan, GBVOR. I just wanted to find out as per the answer that Kashif gave in response to absorptive capacity. I want to know if he can expatiate more on the examples that are being given in terms of overstretched, based on what is mentioned as his definition, which is number of people that can be served. And then secondly, also finding out about the question on the I think I mentioned it somewhere. Yeah, the rule value. If maybe based on the indicators that you presented, if we have specific numbers that are attributed to those indicators in terms of where we get the percentage that must sum to 100 for all the indicators, and is it actually based like context by context, or is something that is defined at global level where we might have formulas that are attributed so much more that if we have a particular indicator we know is 0.2, if another indicator might know is 0.3, or is something that is based on maybe different countries to decide on those individual rule numbers. Over.
Okay, thank you. Dorian, yes. So lack of IM capacity, as you highlight, quite a number of operations are actually facing it. So that's definitely there. So you have to keep it that, all of the operations in mind while you are, adopting this methodology and doing this work. Obviously, if everything is put on protection cluster where you do not have the AOR IAMs in place, then obviously, I was talking to Myanmar the day before yesterday. They're also, they do have the IAM there, but I was proposing there, instead of having 8-10 indicators by AORs, so you just have to make sure that you are just looking at 1 or 2 indicators to make sure you're able to do the work. So IAM capacity definitely there. Now on the historical data, yeah, I have seen this at least from the methodology, what I've seen for GBV, that was definitely there. So that's what I'm trying to say here is, obviously it's a big exercise, but this will definitely help you when it comes to provide the first overall number for the cluster, because as I said, we are not going from bottom to top, but it's a top-down approach at this time. So in my view, as I said, it's definitely worth looking at this whole exercise, but obviously it depends how much capacity you have in place. You can either do the whole, or obviously you can shorten it by looking at only few filters instead of all the 5 filters which are being proposed here. And then you had, so I hope I covered what you asked for, but apologies if not, please come back again. Charles, again, as I explained to Nabil, that rule of law was only an example where I was proposing, each indicator and activity can get 30%, 20%. Definitely, it will depend on the context. So it can vary from context to context. Each activity and indicator in one context could be a different, when it comes to number for the targeting. Isaac, please, over to you.
Hi, Kashif. Thank you so much. This is Isaac, Myanmar operation. Thank you again. Just a quick one, as I said that earlier, and I think I had a chat with Francesco as well regarding the difficulty we will have in applying these filters, particularly in Myanmar. 3 elements. One, the one on access feasibility is a very difficult one because of the constantly changing conflict landscape and the fact that most of the people we are targeting are in hard to reach areas, and which often are restricted by the government. But nonetheless, many of our partners are trying to reach this through many other different means. The second filter also on historical reach. This again keeps changing from year to year, and last year even from the first quarter to the second quarter, we see very drastic changes in terms of our ability to reach populations in different locations, and the similar to our absorptive capacity as well. So I think for our context, we will have to think a little bit differently, a bit creative in terms of how we determine the scores for these filters, because we are a majority of the people we target as Myanmar operation, over 60 or so % live in hard to reach areas. Which we use these filters, it will be very difficult for us to target anyone at all. So that's just to alert you. Thank you.
Thanks, Isaac. Yes, this was, I think it was raised by Musa Yoraim as well in the last webinar, if I remember correctly. I fully take your point there. Obviously, as I said, those filters and the severity or the scoring around those filters can vary from context to context, and obviously whatever best fits in your context, we are proposing that you go ahead with it. Obviously, that's not something binding that if you don't have access, so you're not giving it a priority there. That point is fully taken on board. But again, I will emphasize here that the whole purpose of those filters, presentation of those filters, was to guide some discussion around what could be the realistic target for a given location and for a given population group in any of the given location. So that's what I would say, but I fully take your points on board. Francesco, back to you.
Yeah, I don't know if Isaac, was it okay? You want to come back? Yeah, please come in.
Oh, sorry, Francesco. Yeah, I think Kashif has just clarified it. And I think that's what we have done in this. I mean, we have used the same filters last year as well, but again, we looked at realistically what can we reach, what can we target in these locations, where we seeing, you know, changing areas of control or new security developments, new conflict emerging. So we're taking that definitely in consideration as well this year. So it's good to know that at least there is some flexibility for us to consider as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Isaac. There is a comment from Farzan or Yasmin. It is a must to use all the filters, or we can use them as per our requirement and context, Kashif.
I think
Yeah, please.
already. I think you already answered, Francesco. I mentioned in the chat. Sorry.
No worries.
Okay.
Yasmin. I know there's another question. Sorry, Yasmin. It's about the filters. If they have to be used, the 5 of them, or can be adapted to the context.
Yeah, they can be adapted. So as I said, what I was, telling in the previous response to Isaac. So, and if you remember, at least from my memory, I would say that those filters they were already there. So you were already looking at those filters in the past when you were doing your, target calculations, looking at the response access. So those are, I think, more or less, they're all the same, divided into 3 broad categories, but I think they, in our view, they would definitely help you filter the number and arrive at a consensus. Okay, what should exactly be the target figure for a given location? But over to Rufant.
Thank you, Kashif. I just wanted to mention a hint here about how to decide on the rule value. For when you distribute your overall target across activities, for example, we encourage you to look at the historical data. So for example, the total people reached last year, you try to see how many people were reached by each activity. And from there, you can get your percentages and apply it for the next year target. So this is a hint also that we, and please, again, this values can vary from one population group to another. So for example, I'll give you an example, like usually GBV is more common among IDPs in camps than those outside of the camp. So based on that, we can assign a higher role value for case management for IDPs in camps, and usually say like between 7 to 10% of the overall target. And then for those outside, then you can assign around 5%. But again, look at your previous data as well, and this can help you decide on these values. Over.
Thank you, Rufan. Ash, if you want to add any, you're okay. Fantastic. Tuki, I'm seeing you reacting. You want maybe to come in?
Yes, Francesco, because actually along the same line that the colleagues has also posted in the chat, we understand that we would like to come up with the realistic targets. But at the same time, in Sudan, I think we all, across all the board, had a challenge of getting the information from 5W from the partners. So actually, our reach are quite low, and it's very fear that will lead up to the fact that we will have a very small targets. If we also have if we put the people reach in the calculation for the targets, yeah, it is a bit concerned because actually we get the improvement from last year for sure when it's come to the people reach, but it's still small, and we believe that this might affected our targets for the 2026. Thank you.
Ash, if you want to react to that?
Yes. So Tuki, I think I fully agree. There also, as I said to Isaac, it's not a hard and fast rule that you are using all the filters. We fully agree because of the access situation, your overall reach would be definitely low. So I would also propose here, not to complicate things, but you can also give weighting to each of the 5 filters. So, when it comes to looking at this whole scenario of the filters and the overall score. So let's say, for example, in the case of Sudan, I can give less weighting to people reached in the previous year as compared to access, because that's the most important to us. So likewise, you can also, give weighting or, based on which you can actually, get the final score. And if it helps, I can also put that in the example of the Excel also, where you can invite weighting for each of the filter. But thanks.
Jacques, you want to come in? That's an interesting question.
Hi, Francesco, can you hear me?
Yeah, I know you speak very good English, but even if you feel better in French, Jacques.
Sorry?
You can speak it. Yeah, you can speak either in English or in French, Jacques, as you prefer.
Okay, thank you. I will make it in French to be straight. Je pense que ce filtre de personnes atteintes, nous devons le prendre avec beaucoup d'attention parce que nous risquons de donner l'impression que atteindre les personnes signifie qu'on a répondu à tous leurs besoins de protection, ce qui me semble pas correct. Parce que généralement, quand on considère les personnes atteintes, on considère certaines activités, ce qui ne signifie pas que tous leurs besoins de protection auront été couverts. Et souvent, les autorités tendent à questionner, par exemple, pourquoi est-ce qu'on repart sur les mêmes régions, là où on intervient toujours, on continue à rester là-bas, parce qu'on arrive quand même à atteindre des personnes dans ces zones-là. Moi, je pense que ça nécessite quand même de réfléchir un petit peu plus à ce filtre-là, pour le prendre en considération comme un facteur qui va influencer notre targeting. C'est pour ça que je voulais discuter un petit peu plus pour comprendre comment est-ce que ce reaching influence notre targeting. Et mon feeling est que nous allons être challengés avec ça déjà au sein du HCT avant de venir vis-à-vis des autorités. Over.
Clear, Jacques. Kashif, maybe I translate quickly. Basically, it's what you put in the chat. So using the filter of people reached, it might be misleading. So you want to know what the actual influence we might have on the target, because it might provide the impression that we already have covered all the protection needs. So the comment of Jacques was to be careful to use it and to think about it and how it can be used in order not to provide that feeling, so specifically because it can, before even coming to the government or the interaction with the government, even at the city level or the ACCG can be challenged because then, the needs are being covered. So why you have still this target in those areas? So over to you if you want to react.
Well, I mean, at least in my knowledge, I would definitely be wrong here. I can be wrong here, but looking at the past trends of the people reach, especially for the cluster, I haven't seen any operation which is going, which is fully catering for was able to, provide assistance to the reached. So I think you should not fear over there. But in case, as I was explaining to Tuki for Sudan there, again, you can apply weighting to these filters to make sure that the people reached from the previous year gets a little bit less weighting as compared to the other filters which you are considering in your operation. But Francesco, if you want to add anything or others, happy to listen.
I don't know if Rofan and colleagues want to join in. Otherwise, for me, yeah, please.
I think it's important to ensure that our services are sustained. Like if we are providing services in certain area with high severity, so it's important and aligned with the concept of no harm actually, is to make sure that our services continues to assist those in needs of protection. Because if we are providing service, like if you have like a safe space for this year, and then the situation did not change, it's still an emergency, and we close it next year, then this is, again, we are doing harm more than good. So this is an important. So I don't think our needs are covered
Fully,
temporarily.
yeah.
We need to be there all the time as long as the crisis is impact is there. Yeah.
And I would also, thanks Rafan, very valid point. And I would also add here, if you were to remove the response, which you have been providing at the previous year or the previous cycle, so if you remove them, so that means potentially you are, pushing all those who are getting that help back in need, So that's also a factor that needs to be considered. Although you are providing response, that's good. You are able to cover the need, but if you are to pull out the response from that particular group of people or population, obviously that means you are risking them back to slip again into the people in need criteria. Thank you.
Thank you, Kashif. We are at the hour. I mean, we don't have problem, Kashif and I and the other colleagues to stay. So, but we invite anyone else that has something else. You can invite anytime. But Charles.
Yes, just a quick one. I want to highlight that I just want to go back to the historical reach. That is imperatively important that we have this in mind, especially among the filters, because that's one of the only way we can look at the gaps in terms of, I know there are a lot of sometimes maybe over time from 2024, since we are not just talking about maybe the present year we are or the immediate past year, but we are looking about maybe some other years behind after the war in the context of Sudan. So I want to really think that it's good we use that as one of the ways to bring in the gaps that we've had, especially if we are looking at this at locality levels. There are areas in the locality that we didn't even reach up to maybe 0.5%, based on, it could be based on either a lack of service providers or partners presence in those areas. So it's very, very important that while doing this, we can look at these areas that have this very less, that has low reach in the past, and also have them in the filters at that level. That we add, in addition to all the other 4 filters that I mentioned, in context that can be applicable, it's good for us to have this implied in the whole process. Thank you.
No, it's a great point, Charles. I fully agree there, but yeah, I think Jack, if I was able to understand correctly, so he was probably trying to say, in case if you are able to reach all those who you have targeted. But again, I fully take that point on board. That's one of the important element we have always looked at in the past, when we were finalizing our numbers when it comes to targeting. So it's nothing new. I mean, as I said, the filter which has been introduced, so like access, response capacity, past response, stuff like, filters like that, they've already been looked at over the past. Thank you.
Thank you, Kashif. As said, we are at the hours, but happy to receive any additional question, comment, reflection. We can keep, the meeting open some minutes more. Any additional question, reflection, colleagues? I think we generally answered to everything that was in the chat. There was a comment about the OCHA formula proposed to use the 50% of the severity level 3. So someone was commenting that, for instance, in Lebanon, that should be low. So I answered in the chat, Kashif, if you confirm that what we just said is that to discuss the percentage of severity in country, so to adapt and see, because we have seen the general formula that OCHA proposes, but we don't see the implementation. But I don't know if you have the same have the same thinking.
No, that's what I think as well. This was from Ellen?
Wait a second, sorry. Colleagues call, I don't know if I pronounce it well, sorry for that, it's Fai. Maybe you want to come in? It's Lebanon, so it's not actually H9.
Okay.
No.
I don't, yeah.
No,
Fadal.
just yeah, it's answered. So no need to ask. Yeah, thank you so much. I got the point.
So I don't see any other colleagues are not opening the mic. I don't see any other question in the chat. I think we more or less address everything that was there. In any case, we will share the recording and we will follow up on the comments as we did in the last webinar. So we will read them much more carefully. And then Kashif, Rofan, and Marie, and Treasure, our leads, we will look into those. So I think we can close it. Kashif, I don't know if you have any last comment. Otherwise, I can close the session with a couple of things just to close.
No, Makan, please. Sorry.
Yeah.
No. It's not a question. Just to ask if you can share the file to allow us to use some dummy data just to explore the file before starting with real data.
Yeah. Eric?
Yeah, I just had a small question about the pockets of needs. If I don't know if you've seen that in the OCHA in the OCHA guidance, but they talk about the possibility of including pockets of needs. For example, I don't know, a refugee camp in a big city or something like this. Is this something that as well can be done within this methodology, or how to include that? I think it's quite relevant for protection. Over.
Dorian, is your question or comment related to what Eric asked, or otherwise I can come in?
Absolutely, yes. It is of high importance also because even here we discussed with OCHA, basically the way we understand these pockets of needs is that to identify some areas which might not, which might otherwise be absorbed and deprioritized in the intersectorial assessment, but which are of a heavy and big importance to the protection cluster. In our case, it is some areas which are relevant because of some conflict issues or landmines, which otherwise fall through the cracks. So if that is the same, I'm also very much interested in to have any kind of advocacy to push to allow us to have a reasonable amount of those counties as well.
And Dorian, a question back to you, Eric. I'll come back to it, but so that means OCHA is still not agreeing on some of the areas which for protection cluster is critical, but they're not including them in the scope of the analysis.
Well, we haven't received anything from OCHA, at least here in South Sudan. So if you guys are having still if I don't know if they have received anything from their headquarters, we don't have meetings anymore. So, so if that is still something that you have influence on at global level, please keep us informed so we can also at local level say, no, your global is actually saying that you have to do it. So, so we don't fall into the trap of them saying what you have agreed with the global.
Yeah, so I already confirm, and I think this will answer to what Eric was also saying. So I can confirm that within the GIAF intersectoral analysis, so they are proposing, pocket of areas which could be considered in let's say in a given district where you think the severity, intersector severity is low, either 2 or 3, and then but then you have certain pockets, or certain areas within that geographical location which should be targeted in terms of needs and response. So they are actually allowing this facility, I mean, quote unquote, not facility, I mean the liberty for us to actually consider those areas. So like I would say last time what OCHA was quite instrumental in South Sudan on cutting those counties, which to protection was quite critical. So I think there now we do have the from the intersectoral analysis, training which I attended. They are actually proposing pocket of areas could be considered within a given district, which could be included in the analysis. Eric, I don't have. I mean, I would definitely say, I mean, in case if there are specific areas which are critical to child protection or GBV or HLP mine action, definitely I would fully agree with this approach as well to be included, because as I said, they are including it in the intersectoral analysis. But I mean, that's my take on it. But Francesco, I don't know if you would like to come in.
No, I agree. I mean, I copied in the chat the draft messages on the pockets of need and why that was done. We have to say that part of it was, I mean, we were not the only one advocating for it, but we actually advocated quite strongly with OCHA that not just to use the intersectoral severity as is, but to take into consideration when we have specific area severity 5, because we have seen that within protection that happen a lot. South Sudan is an example, but we have area of the country like Venezuela or others where we would go completely in different areas compared to what the intersectoral severity was going. So as it comes to us, yes, I mean, I will definitely do so. The methodology allows it. But then I guess the discussion there, and Dorian also we have to follow up on your side, is what type of evidence they would like to see. Because they always mention the evidences, so probably we will have to see bilaterally, because in my experience, there is not a common methodology for, even though they claim so, on how to see the to do the intersectoral discussion. So that will depend from the level of evidence it's required. So try to understand maybe in this phase what level of evidence they would like to see, and then we can build on a bit the case and what is needed, but that would be a bit discriminant. I don't know if Kashi, if you agree, but that would be my comment. Eric, I don't know if you still have a reflection to build on that.
No, thank you. Thanks, guys.
Then I see Muthu. Thanks for this one is not conveying the recently conducted. Can you come in, Muthu? I don't understand what you referred to.
Thanks, Francisco. That your response, as you said, however, any areas that have at least one sector classified as a sector severity 5 flat for discussion. This is not
that's what
OCHA said recently in the IMWICCG, because it's always is an issue once we just submit our cluster severity. When they calculate in the workshop of the intersectoral severity, then they just say at least 2 clusters should have been, in the same position. And this year I asked, they said that no, GR manual, we just follow as it is. So it is better, like, if it comes from global level to OCHA, or we just follow this manual or this draft, so we can just influence things.
Thank you, Muthu. That's a great point. So what I would suggest is, if, like as Muthu mentioned, if any of your operation, you have any issue with the guidance provided by the OCHA team, flag it to us. Kashif, and as we have a specific channel with the OCHA Global, so and we actually have a good communication to flag these things. So thanks for telling that. What I copied in the chat, just to be sure, so you don't go, that was in a draft global OCHA document, and we still didn't see the final one. Okay, so that should be very final, but it's just to say what was the ongoing discussion. So don't take it as it is, but we will investigate for you, Muthu, in this case for Sudan, and then all the other operation. Please flag any issue that you have on this. Kashif, I don't know if you want to add on that.
No, I think you've covered well.
Thank you. Ukraine suggesting that if you support them, because they're going to have to do pin and targeting by objectives and not by geographic areas in the mess of every single HRP. Okay. I think it was good to leave a bit of space to this final question and reflection, so I will leave a bit of space again. It seems quite useful. Any last minute thinking question? We are quite reachable, colleagues. You have seen it. Kashif and I, but also Rofan, Marie, Treasure, and Christine. So if even in the next days, you know, maybe something that you thought and you didn't think come true, just please reach out to us. I think none of us has the full picture of what the HNLP will look like this year, honestly. I mean, it's really difficult for us even to understand, and even for Mocha Global. So it's gonna, I think that we will have to go day by day. We really hope that at least our approach is clear. I think that what we try to focus well with the colleagues of the AUR is to have a clear approach on our end, because to face a bit the chaos that we're going to face externally, at least we have a common approach. And then for the adaptation of the methodology, the streamline methodology this year, I repeat what we say in the previous webinar. We know there is a transition here, so we will act as an help desk in for every single operation. So please come back, because as usual, we understand that not everything can be implemented as presented, so we are fully aware of that. So please reach out, don't get stuck, as I usually say. Before getting stuck, even in conversation or applying everything that you have seen in the presentation by the book, please reach out to us and we will guide you in any way possible form. Having said that, we will share the recording of August. Sorry for that, we had a bit of a problem during the week, along with this recording. We will probably put it also on the GPC website, but in any case, and then we will, Kashif will share the tool and the presentation on the targeting, and we are finalizing the response framework. So we'll need a bit of time yet to finalize, but if any operation, as I've been telling to some of you bilaterally, you need an advanced draft, please come back to us and we can share another advanced draft for your ongoing conversation. Appreciate if there will be a webinar on prioritization. I think we should do that every year, but yeah, not taken Mutu. We will discuss that as well. On my side, that's all. So Kashif, I don't know if you have any additional inputs or other colleagues.
No, thanks from my side.
Otherwise, thank you very much. Have a good rest of the day, afternoon, and night. And thanks a lot for the participation to this. And I hope you're going to have a good week. Bye, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.